Bean. It's a beloved children's book. So what were the challenges for you? Like, why do you want to come on board too?
Well, I came on board because of my relationship with the director, Alyssa Down. So I'd worked with her for since 2007. So I just do all of her films. So it's more that she calls me and says, we're going on this ride next. And I'm like, okay, let's go. But it's interesting because her career, she'd done a lot of teenage stories, like late teenage, early 20s stories, and this is the first time she's done a children's story. So it was an interesting challenge, and Alyssa has a quirkiness to her and to the way she tells stories, very heavily reliant on score and on music too. But in the past, it's been, I guess, older, a bit more angsty, a bit more teenagey, early 20s. But now, it's like, no, this is innocence, this is imagination, this is, there's terror, but from a child's perspective, so it was fun to just do something completely different and magical.
And plus, but you also want to keep it a little dark. I mean, you have to keep it a little edgy and it's for children. So what was the balancing like? Because you realize these are for kids, but we also want to, kind of get in their heads a little.
Well, but that's the thing. That's why I said terror, because there's terror, but it's from a child's perspective. Like there are 3 movies, and the middle one is kind of a ghost story. Yeah. So the and the direction also from Netflix as well was like, we don't want to scare kids off. Like we want them to be a little bit scared, but we don't want so scared that they'll turn it off, right? So the thing is, it's, and a lot of that is the music. You're like, if you make, I do a lot of horror. I know how to scare people with music. So I had to restrain myself. And it was like, how can you be dark, but within the paradigm of a world for children,
So like on the first draft, you didn't submit something like The Vigil? And say, this is the score, this is what I want it really dark, and then Netflix said, whoa.
That's right. Well, it's funny because we used the same orchestra as on Cabinet of Curiosities, right? And it was like, literally like, the recording session for ivybean were like a month later. So, I'm sure that the orchestra was surprised when they opened the music. They're like, hang on, this looks different to what we just did. There's no like snaking runs and like string slides and, like atonal clusters. I'm like, yeah, this one's going to be a bit different.
But at the same time, your horror background must have helped a lot, because you do have to add that. Obviously pull it back, but with that experience, this might have been a harder thing to score.
I think running the gamut of emotion is definitely, that was the fun challenge. It's like we want to be funny, we also want to be a little bit scary, we want to be adventurous, and we want to be always pushing the story forward. It has to have a real sense of momentum all the time in a way that can engage a young audience. We never want them to be bored. We want them on the edge of their seat going, what's going to happen to our heroes? Like, what are they going to do next? So, and all of that plays into it, including some of the, like the horror stuff. There's, in the first movie, there's quite a significant, bad guy, for want of a better word, and it's like you are trying to, the kids are trying to escape her. So that feeling of fear and needing to escape definitely plays into it.
We have a lot of students, like aspiring, musicians, directors, writers. So do you recommend maybe for even the younger students trying to learn, make sure you do multiple genres, or don't lock yourself in, explore as much as possible, because it feeds into everything?
So it's interesting. So rather than write, because I hear a lot of composers, and the younger composers, and they send me reels, and it's like, this is me doing Star Wars, or this is me doing John Williams, this is me doing Hans Zimmer, this is me doing this and that. I think it's better to find your own voice as a composer, but definitely watch everything. Like watch a ton of movies. Like, don't just watch one kind of movie. Like, just watch as much as you possibly can, and not just recent movies. Go back. Watch the 80s movies. They're the best. Watch 70s, watch 60s, watch 50s, but expose yourself to as much cinematic language as possible, because it's going to feed into your, let's say, library as an artist.
And maybe not always watch things in your comfort zone either.
That's right. That's what I'm saying. Like, like for a student today, go watch a movie from the 50s. Just expose yourself to like Bernard Herrmann. Go do that.